Welcome back to the Deep Dive. This time, we're going to do a deep dive into Delia Owens' best-selling novel, Where the Crawdads Sing.
Oh, yes.
You've shared a really interesting mix of excerpts from the book itself and some articles discussing its impact.
Yeah.
I'm excited to unpack Kaya's journey,
Yeah.
that captivating mystery surrounding Chase, and how nature is just woven into everything.
Oh, it's such a rich text, isn't it? I think one of the things that I'm so drawn to is how Owens uses nature, and specifically the marsh, to reflect Kaya's internal world.
Yes, right from the beginning.
Yeah.
With that line, marsh is not swamp, you get the sense that the marsh is almost a character itself.
Oh, for sure.
And Kaya, abandoned by her family one by one,
Yeah.
finds solace and survival in this environment that most people wouldn't even consider a home.
Exactly. And, it's both beautiful and brutal, mirroring Kaya's own life.
Right.
She learns to fish and forage, becoming remarkably self-sufficient for such a young girl.
Yeah.
But it's that isolation that also shapes her, making her wary of the outside world.
And that wariness kind of bleeds into how the townspeople view her.
Totally.
They call her marsh girl.
Yeah.
Almost like a creature, and not a child deserving of compassion.
Right, right.
This prejudice follows her throughout the story, doesn't it?
Sadly, it does, and I think it impacts her relationships, especially with the two men that figure prominently in her life, Tate Walker and Chase Andrews.
Tate is the one who at least initially offers Kaya a bridge to the world beyond the marsh. He teaches her to read, which opens up a whole new realm of knowledge and connection for her. Even he eventually leaves.
He does.
For college.
Yeah.
I felt that loss so deeply for Kaya.
Yeah.
Another abandonment to add to the pile.
It speaks to that central tension in the book, Kaya's deep connection to nature versus the pull of human relationships.
Right.
And then we have Chase, who represents the allure and danger of the human world in a much more complicated way.
Their relationship is so complex. He's drawn to her wildness.
Yes.
But there's a possessiveness to him that feels off from the start.
Yeah.
And when that attraction turns into assault, it really highlights that theme of trust and betrayal.
It's heartbreaking because in some ways, Chase initially offers Kaya the acceptance she craves.
Right.
He's popular, he's from a well-respected family, the opposite of the ostracized marsh girl, but that facade crumbles quickly and the betrayal reinforces Kaya's instinct to rely on the marsh for safety.
Which makes his death all the more suspicious.
Absolutely.
Owens really ratchets up the suspense with the scene at the fire tower. No footprints.
Right.
A missing shell necklace.
Yeah.
It's like she's giving us puzzle pieces, but holding back the key to putting them together.
The lack of clear-cut evidence is crucial, and I think it allows for doubt to fester not just within the story, but in the reader's mind, too. We're left wondering, could Kaya have done it? Was it an accident? Someone else entirely?
Right.
And it speaks to how easily suspicion can fall on someone who already exists outside societal norms.
And Kaya, being the marsh girl, is the perfect target for those suspicions. The trial, which we'll dive into later, really brings that to the forefront.
It becomes a microcosm of all the prejudice she's faced. But before we go there, I want to touch on something you mentioned earlier, Owens' writing style.
Oh, yeah.
She uses such evocative language, particularly when describing the marsh.
Oh, absolutely. It's almost like you can smell the salt air.
Yeah.
Feel the mud between your toes.
Totally.
But it's more than just beautiful descriptions. She uses symbolism so effectively.
Exactly. Those recurring motifs of birds and feathers, especially the heron feather left for Kaya, they suggest a connection between Kaya and the natural world that goes beyond simple observation. It's almost a spiritual language they share.
Like she understands the marsh's secrets in a way that others don't even attempt to grasp.
Exactly.
And that brings us back to the theme of isolation.
Yes.
She's physically isolated in the marsh, but also isolated in her understanding of it.
Which makes you wonder, is that isolation a source of strength or a tragic consequence of her abandonment? It's something Owens makes us grapple with throughout the novel.
It's a question that lingers even after the trial, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Especially with how the novel ends.
Right. And before we dive into that ending, I think it's worth mentioning the incredible impact this book has had.
Yeah.
It became a massive bestseller and even sparked discussions about Owens' own life story, which in some ways mirrors Kaya's isolation and connection to nature.
It definitely seems like a story that resonated with a wide audience. And I think that's because at its heart, it's about so much more than just a murder mystery.
Yeah.
It's about belonging, resilience, and the search for connection in a world that often feels hostile.
Absolutely. It's fascinating how Owens keeps us guessing throughout the trial. She feeds us these little pieces of information, much like Kaya meticulously collects and categorizes her shells and feathers.
Right, like the red wool cap found at the crime scene with hair similar to Kaya's.
Yeah.
But then we learned the cap was available at a shop in town, and the hair analysis wasn't conclusive, so was it planted? Did it belong to Kaya? Owens leaves enough room for doubt to creep in.
Totally. And then there's that missing shell necklace.
Oh, right.
That Chase gave Kaya, which his ex-girlfriend Patty Love claimed was missing after the murder.
Right.
The prosecution tries to paint this as a trophy, implying Kaya took it back in a fit of jealous rage.
But the defense counters with the fact that Kaya was known to trade her shell creations.
Yeah.
Could she have just sold the necklace, unaware of its significance in the case? The ambiguity is almost maddening.
It is.
But so cleverly done.
And even the physical evidence surrounding the fire tower's location is presented with a layer of uncertainty.
Right.
The prosecution focuses on the open grate and the lack of footprints, but the defense brings up the fact that those grates were often left unlocked.
So was it carefully planned murder, or could Chase have fallen through the grate accidentally? And how did Kaya supposedly get back and forth to Greenville so quickly on the bus?
Right, and I think those logistical questions that are never fully answered reinforce the idea that this trial isn't just about finding the truth. It's about the town's deep-seated prejudice against Kaya.
It's almost like Kaya's on trial for being different, for being the marsh girl.
Exactly. Her isolation, which had been both her sanctuary and her burden, becomes the weapon used against her.
Even the way the townspeople talk about Kaya reflects their biases. They focus on her lack of formal education, her wildness, her connection to nature.
Right.
It's as if they can't see her humanity beyond these superficial labels.
This is where Owens' commentary on social injustice really shines through.
Yes.
Kaya's trial becomes a microcosm of how society often treats those who don't conform to its expectations.
It's a sobering reminder that sometimes justice is less about facts and more about perception.
Absolutely. And in Kaya's case, those perceptions are heavily clouded by years of fear and prejudice.
It's interesting, though, that despite the darkness of the trial, Owens still manages to weave in those beautiful moments of connection with nature.
Right. Even during the trial, Kaya finds solace in her memories of the marsh, her observations of the birds.
Yeah.
It reinforces that theme of nature as a refuge, a source of strength in the face of human cruelty.
And even though she is ultimately acquitted, the experience leaves a lasting impact on Kaya.
Without a doubt, the trial strips away any remaining illusion she might have had about finding acceptance in the human world.
Yeah.
She retreats back to the marsh even more wary of human connection than before.
Which makes Tate's return even more poignant.
It does.
He represents that flicker of hope, the possibility that maybe, just maybe, Kaya can find love and belonging after all she's been through.
Their reunion is so beautifully written, filled with a tenderness that acknowledges the trauma of the past without letting it define their future.
It speaks to the healing power of love and forgiveness, both for Kaya and for Tate, who carries his own guilt over leaving her years ago.
Right.
And their shared passion for nature becomes the foundation of their relationship.
Absolutely.
They understand each other in a way that no one else ever has.
It's true.
They build a life together filled with simple joys, exploring the marsh, studying its creatures, sharing their knowledge and love of the natural world.
Yeah.
It's almost idyllic, but there's that twist, isn't there? The one that throws everything we thought we knew into question.
Yeah.
Years after Kaya's death, Tate discovers that missing shell necklace.
Oh, wow.
Hidden away in a place only Kaya would have known about.
Right.
It's like a punch to the gut for Tate and for the reader.
It is.
It forces us to confront the possibility that the woman we've come to empathize with, to root for, might have been capable of taking a life.
Right.
It's a bold move by Owens, leaving us to grapple with that moral ambiguity. It's such a complicated revelation. We've spent the entire book, the entire trial, trying to understand Kaya, and then this discovery throws everything into a new light.
Yeah, it does, and I think that's what makes the ending so powerful. Owens doesn't give us easy answers. She forces us to ask ourselves, can we condemn Kaya for her actions, knowing the abuse she endured?
It's that million-dollar question, isn't it? We're so used to clear-cut resolutions in stories, good triumphs over evil justice prevails, but real life and great literature often exist in those gray areas.
Exactly. Owens doesn't shy away from those gray areas. She makes us confront the uncomfortable reality that even someone we perceive as innocent as a victim can also be capable of violence.
It's a reminder that people are complex, shaped by their experiences, capable of both great love and great pain. And sometimes those things can coexist in a way that's hard to reconcile.
Right, and I think the fact that Kaya's secret goes to the grave with her is significant. It raises questions about the nature of justice. Does Kaya ultimately escape punishment for her actions?
Or does she punish herself living with that secret for the rest of her life? Owens doesn't tell us, and I think that's the point she leaves us, to ponder the weight of that secret, the implications of Kaya's choices, and how we define justice in a world where things are rarely black and white.
And while the ending might be ambiguous, one thing is clear. Nature remains Kaya's constant companion. It's where she finds solace, where she finds her voice, where she ultimately returns.
That connection to the marsh is so deeply embedded in Kaya's identity. It shaped her, protected her, and in some ways isolated her. But it's also where she finds beauty and meaning, even in the darkest of times.
I think that's why Where the Crawdads Sing resonates with so many people. It's a story about finding your place in the world, even when that world doesn't seem to want you.
It's about resilient survival and the enduring power of the natural world to heal and transform.
And it's also a reminder that we all have secrets, that justice is rarely simple, and that beauty can be found in the most unexpected places.
Well, this deep dive has been quite a journey. I'm still mulling over that ending and all its implications. Where the Crawdads Sing is definitely a book that stays with you long after you finish reading it.
Absolutely. It's a testament to Owens' skill as a storyteller and her ability to craft characters that are both flawed and deeply human. I think we can all learn something from Kaya's story, even if it's just to appreciate the beauty and complexity of the natural world around us.
Beautifully said. And to our listener, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it insightful and thought-provoking if this conversation has piqued your interest. We encourage you to explore the book, the film adaptation, and even delve into the real-life story of Delia Owens. There's so much to discover within these pages and beyond. Until next time.